Hey everyone, my name is Tim Scarborough. I welcome you now to the Engagement Room, episode 6. Tonight, our celebrated speaker is my good friend Todd Duermyer. We met a number of years ago on the community theater stage where I played a mob boss in Vegas and he was my dutiful henchman. Now, we had no body count. As far as we know, we never really killed anyone, but we did have a real good time. At the time, I was still getting to know Todd and his wife, Christina, and as new friends, and I did not know of Todd's aspirations in the ministry. And one thing that Todd has had a wonderful heart in is lifting up other men to be a mentor, to be a counselor, to be a trainer, to be a teacher. And that led him to create what's called lifting up dads. Now, he has his own website, he's on social media, and he just finished a fantastic opportunity of which he was a TEDx speaker talking about the same. And I'm so proud of him and his efforts, and he's just, doing wonderful things. Tonight, he is going to be talking about something directly related to everything that he has been doing, but he's going to connect it. And it's called The Lion's Heart, Unbreakable Fatherhood, you know, transforming families by lifting up dads. So let's help me welcome our speaker, Todd Duermyer.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining and thank you for the opportunity for this presentation, Tim. I definitely appreciate it. Shall I go ahead and begin?
Go ahead.
All right. We live in a world that tells men to be silent heroes, the quiet provider, the strong protector. We've been told showing weakness, sadness, or fear makes us less of a man. It's time to break this outdated idea. Being a silent, stone-faced hero isn't strength, it's avoidance, and it's destroying us. Doesn't this sound more like the actions of an ostrich, burying its head in the sand, than that of a proud lion? Take a look at the cost with me. 8 out of 10 suicides are men. Yes, we're going deep here. Men are far less likely to be diagnosed with depression or anxiety than women. So I ask you, is it stronger to be silent? To bury your head in the sand? To me, this proves that sucking it up in silence is a lethal failure of our culture. This crisis of silence hits men hardest during one of life's most vulnerable transitions, becoming a new dad. That said, it is not limited to this stage of a man's life. It can occur at any time, as this is something boys, myself included, are often taught. As a statement I often heard was, if you want to cry, I'll give you something to cry about. Sound familiar? So if you are a man, or know and love a man, please stay with me. Many people think that mood and anxiety changes after a baby arrives only happens to mothers. That's simply not true. According to the Mayo Clinic and other major medical institutions, dads can experience postpartum depression too. It's called paternal postpartum depression, paternal being father. And research shows that 1 out of every 10 new fathers will experience depression or anxiety during their partner's pregnancy or the baby's first year, or all of it. In some communities, it's 3 out of 10. But here's the heartbreaking part. Most dads who struggle never get help because of shame, stigma, or a simple lack of awareness. We feel left out and lonely after the baby arrives. And trust me, many of us do. And the risk of that depression goes up 6 times. Our first instinct is often to retreat and hide in our work. We tell ourselves we're not avoiding anything. We're just focused on paying the bills and providing for our families. But using money as an excuse to avoid a family that needs you only makes the loneliness worse. Here's what we need to understand. Your mental health, men's mental health, women's mental health is not just a private matter. It affects your family life now. And your struggle can cast a long shadow over your kids. You see, when fathers struggle with depression and anxiety, their children are more likely to have behavioral issues when they start school. Later in life, these children are more likely to struggle with depression and anxiety themselves. But here's the good news. Seeking help is the ultimate act of courage. If you are currently acting more like an ostrich with your head in the sand, don't beat yourself up. Instead, lift your head up and transform into the lion you truly are. When you show your children that you're strong enough to ask for help, you teach them a lesson they'll carry for a lifetime. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it's the path to resilience. I can tell you from a personal experience as a man, as a dad who has sought help with my mental health, spoken regularly with a counselor. It really does help. It gives you someone to share anything with, someone to ask advice from, as I have many times, and it helps both you and your family. And in case you're wondering, just like any medical appointment, everything is completely confidential. So here's the question. How do we move from being an ostrich to becoming the lion we are? How do we break this pattern? It starts with presence. Not grand gestures, but consistent daily engagement that builds your family's foundation. When a child is born, the mother is completely focused on the baby. This is natural. Dads, we need to support our wives. After all, she just gave birth, a miracle and an incredible feat. This applies to adoptive families as well, as I adopted my wife and I adopted our kids from foster care. And an important task for dads is to create a protective shell around their wife and kids, to be the steady guide who keeps the family from feeling abandoned. This is why when many dads feel lonely or left out. And the key is to stay involved, help, plan, provide, and love your family, even when it gets rough. When you have questions or frustrations, as you likely will, reach out to someone you trust, a fellow dad, a counselor, your pastor, even dad groups online. Find a way, whatever it may be, beneficial for you to stay rooted and involved instead of running away back to work. If you manage to stay and guide your family through this change, you'll find your true permanent identity as a father. Being a present dad simply means doing 4 types of activities. And research confirms that doing all 4 leads to children who score higher in thinking, talking, movement, and emotional management. And don't worry, they're not difficult. 1, basic care. Simple things like feeding, helping with the cooking, the washing of the dishes, changing your kid's diaper, or soothing a baby to sleep while your wife gets the rest she needs. Not saying you don't, but you work as a team. 2, love and play. hugs, praise, interactive play with your child, no matter how old they are, if they're 1 day old or 18 years old, even 48 like me. Household chores, share the domestic workload, like preparing food, keeping a running shopping list on your phone, as I can show you mine, or cleaning the house. And contrary to old opinions, and I'm going to step on toes here, housework is not women's work, it's family's work, and you're part of the family. 4, early learning. Read books to your kids, have them read them to you. Tell stories, and talking about counting and naming things. Even simple things like the ABC game or my spies when you're on long or short drives. And yes, even do this when they can't walk or talk yet, even when they're still in the womb or 11 years old, like my daughter. Involved fatherhood requires a full partnership with your spouse. This isn't just about sharing the load, it's about being a team and building a stable foundation for your kids. Your relationship with your spouse is one of the most important classes your children will ever attend. Through your example, they'll learn how to approach work, how to handle money, and importantly, how to treat their future spouse. When dads actively help with caregiving and household chores, it protects the whole family, helping out the mother who may be going through a whole wrestling match mentally herself. As research also proves that sharing the domestic load leads to significantly lower stress and depression for the mother. By working as a team, you also allow your wife to thrive in her career and become the role models that our children need. Now, let me bring up a comment trap. One that has caught me a few, maybe more times. Dads, we often fall for the Disneyland Dad idea, thinking we have to spend lots and lots of money or go on lavish big trips to be a good father. Research proves this wrong. The activities that provide the most psychological strength to a family are the simple, daily, home-based routines such as eating dinner together, playing board games, card games, watching a movie, or playing catch in the yard. The satisfaction you and your kids feel from these everyday moments is the single strongest predictor of a close, happy, and flexible family. Your strength is found in your daily consistency, not occasional extravagance. And as a Christian, I look to God's word for guidance. And the Bible clearly calls for teamwork in a marriage. Ecclesiastes 4:12 says it beautifully. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. This threefold cord is the blueprint for partnership, and one strand is the husband, one is the wife, and the third is God himself. When you intentionally invite Christ to be the cornerstone of your family, he gives your marriage an unbreakable bond. The Bible gives us clear examples of fatherhood as well, both success and failure. God the Father is our perfect model. He's the provider, protector, disciplinarian, and forgiver. He knows every hair on your head. Yes, even the few that I have. And I do have some hair. And he rushes to embrace us when we repent, just like the father of the prodigal son. There's also Mordecai, who shows us the power of commitment. He adopted his orphan cousin Esther, an extraordinary act of intentional love. Even after she was taken into the king's palace, Mordecai walked every day before the court to check on her. This relentless, active presence is the biblical illustration of the consistency we need as fathers. King David, he warns us what happens when we fail to address our own sin. David was a great warrior and king, but a permissive father. When his son Amnon assaulted his daughter Tamar, David failed to intervene, likely because of his own moral failures with Bathsheba, who had robbed him of his authority. His unaddressed sin hurt his children through a domino effect of inaction. The lesson is clear. Walk with God and model repentance for your failures. Even apologize to your kids directly when you lose it for a moment and yell at them, or hit a wall in frustration. And yes, I have been there, done that. Dads, the time for silence is over. Your children don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. They don't need a Disneyland dad with his wallet wide open. They need a lion with his heart open. Be strong enough to ask for help. Show your children that therapy is courageous, not weak. Show up in the everyday moments. Stop chasing extravagance and prioritize simple consistency, such as reading a book, playing a game, and eating dinner together. This builds the strongest family foundation. Partner with your spouse as an unbreakable team. Recognize that sharing the load protects both your and your spouse's mental health and provides the most stable environment for your children. Model consistency like Mordecai. Learn from David's mistake and address your own faults. Contrary to what many believe, there are resources for you. Yes, many are geared towards moms, because dads are typically running away at work or behaving like an ostrich. But that's not you, is it? I believe you are a man who faces his head on, like a lion you are. So let's redefine strength, not as silence, but as love, presence, and vulnerability. When we lift up dads, we don't just transform fathers. We transform entire generations. Will you join me? Thank you.
Well done, Todd. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, you're coming in a little early. That's okay. That's all right. Then let me remove the pen here. All right, then. So now, let's see, double check. I need to go over to and look at the Facebook side of things. Our delay's a little bit better tonight, so that's okay. Now, at our group tonight, we have uh, we have 4 people here. We have Linda, we have Sandra. I know we still have Derek over on Facebook. And so, who has the first question for Todd from his presentation? Sandra, would you like to go ahead and start?
Well, I'd like to see Todd give the same message to women. Because
Okay.
it seems like both the husband, wife, male or female in the relationship, however you balance, it has to be a string of communication between them. And they should be hearing the same message and then talking about it. Not just saying, okay, we're gonna go by whatever Todd said.
Right.
Right, but to discuss it, make it discussion points, or even a deck of cards to play during the dinner. And boy, do I remember those dinners with mom and dad. and we'd all sit down, we'd say a prayer. We had to eat everything put in front of us. And we had to there was a whole system to our dinners. And as much as I probably didn't like it then, it's some of the best memories I have. So would you change anything if you were giving this conversation to women?
So I actually have a third speech in mind that I am working on crafting, and it is a speech presentation that I want to give in churches with moms, dads, and their kids present, because I want this to be, like you said, the entire family. It affects the entire family, and that is something I aspire to. And actually, not just aspire to, it's something I'm actively writing.
No, that's good because if you want to look at a balanced approach, because I mean, we've all seen this balance where everything's focusing on the mom, and then the dad is kind of catching up. It happens with weddings, it happens with childbirth, it happens with pregnancies, and there's nothing wrong with any of it. It's just that sometimes we're a little left out. And I remember, the birth of my granddaughter and my grandson. I'm having to kind of pat my sons-in-law on the back and say, okay, listen, son, it's like, I just wanted to warn you, you're going to get swept to the side a little bit.
Right.
And it's not a bad thing. It's just, this is just kind of how it goes. I'm here to back you up. Don't feel bad. It's like, you just get in there and you help your wife, you help my daughter, and and do your part as the husband and the soon to be dad, because uh, this is about to be a traumatic process, but in the very, very end, it's going to be wonderful. You're going to have your baby there, and just prepare for that. And and that's at the beginning of your family right there. You're
Right.
trying to go from there, and unfortunately, some of us don't behave as well as others might, and we unfortunately create a memory that we never hear the end of, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
just like what Sandra was talking about with at the table, like, the structure is there, like, we had this specific family format for eating, preparation, plating, eating, passing it around the right way. You don't go against the other way, making sure, all the plates are set up the right way, all the utensils are set up the right way, and so on and so forth, in specific locations for the dishes, the entrees, and all of those things build good discipline and structure. But sometimes we can get overwhelmed. So, all right, who's our next question? Linda, what do you have for Todd?
A very interesting presentation, Todd. You mentioned putting together a presentation to include the mother and the dad and the children. I would recommend also you put together a presentation for children regarding the whole idea that you're presenting, but on a level that, depending upon the age of the children, they would relate to more. Much of what you spoke today is on a level of an adult, I think. And it may or may not connect with a child. Just my thoughts. What do you think?
I appreciate that. And yes, this presentation is definitely more of an adult level. Yeah, the presentation I'm working on is I'm going to have my family involved. And if you've ever seen the movie The Greatest Showman, that is actually something, a concept I'm taking with it, where it's not going to be a sermon, if you will, or, a typical sermon where the preacher is up there for 20, 40, 60 minutes. Yes, I'll be there for like 20 minutes, but children have a shorter attention span. So I'm going to mix in different things while trying to keep the message of being together as a family and watching out for one another. And but do it in a way that it hits. This is the balance and why I'm still writing it. Doing it with a balance in mind that I don't want a negative takeaway for the child, but I still want to address the elephant in the room, if you will.
Mhm.
Okay, Todd, I've got something for you. So,
Yeah.
um, we have unfortunately, we've unfortunately all had the terrible experience of losing a brother to suicide, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, of which I have just within the last few days lost a fraternity brother whenever I was at Murray State, and we're still
Mm.
trying to find out things about that. But um, I do know, from going through a divorce myself, and then my father also doing the same thing, that those ideas do come up. And so, based upon your your progression in this ministry, and then some things that you've learned to try and build other men up as a prevention to ever get to that point, what are some of the methods or the strategies that you've actually looked at and utilized to help other men out?
So one is, and it's one that I use on myself at times when I've had similar thoughts at various times, and is that we are our own worst critic.
Mhm.
So one thing that my counselor has said many times is take the win, celebrate the win, focus on the win. Your child went to bed with only 15 minutes of a tantrum instead of 30. That's a win. Even simple stuff of, you got up and got to have your cup of coffee today. Take the win. And to focus on that, yes, there's negative. There's always negative. Welcome to planet Earth.
Yep.
There's also positive. So focus on that. Another method that I recommend is simply check in. One thing I mentioned in my TEDx talk was that if you know a man, you go up to a man and they say, ask him, "Hey Tim, how you doing? Tim? Let me ask you this: if you were to come up, maybe not to me, but someone that you fairly know, maybe even me, and I ask, "Hey Tim, how's it going?" What's your typical answer?
Fine.
I'm
No,
fine.
I wouldn't say. If I was like, I would say something like, I'm doing all right, or as I do in work sometimes, I'm getting there. I'm unfortunately not one of those better than I deserve or something like that. I don't do anything like that, but and it's usually not a joyful thing. Usually I'm focused on a specific direction, and that's where I'm headed, and
Right.
whether I feel good or not, or whether I'm in a good mood or not, I'm just going that way, and I'll be like doing all right. That's about the worst, because I'm not going to really ever say exactly 100% how I truly feel, because, well, how many of us really like to admit vulnerability, you know?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And I would say probably 90% of the time, the man, or in general, probably as human beings,
Hmm.
I'm just talking with men in particular, I'm fine. And part of that might be because, like you said, we don't want to talk about it right now. We have a mission in mind. We're focused. We want to move on.
Right.
But if it's someone that you know, like let's say you and me, because we do know one another,
Hmm.
that you're somewhat close to, if you can catch them in the moment and be like, all right, Tim, how you really doing? And check in on your brothers.
Right.
Check in on the men in your lives. This goes for everybody
Right.
because generally we don't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't. We
That's
don't.
true. That's true.
And to actually have someone be like, no, I'm not accepting, I'm fine. How are you really
Right.
doing?
And that's quite pronounced, as your children grow up and leave the house. Once you become an empty nester like me now, and with two grandchildren, you get to a certain point to where like, now what? Of
Mhm.
course, my like one of my benefits is that unfortunately I went through a divorce and I was a single dad for a little while, so I'm a little used to being that kind of hanging out to dry sometimes, but it's not a comfortable feeling. And you know, you also get accustomed to being alone too, which, I was an only child for the first 9 years of my life.
Mhm.
And until my sister came along, I was that only child for a little while, other than cousins for siblings. But that's very true. I mean, you're exactly right. Just that shield, I guess. You're putting a shield up, going like, I'm fine, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have our shields and we all have
Mhm.
our have their scars.
Yes.
But having that brother come up and check on you and allowing you to take that shield down,
Mm.
I mean, it's not going to come down right away. It
Hmm.
takes time. But if that trust is formed,
Right.
that alone can help.
Right. Well, now that gets into a point, and then Linda and Sandra, if you could kind of chime in on this as well. Active groups, some type of active group, whether you have community in church, Toastmasters, a work group, whoever it might be. Todd, what value do you assign to that level of community? Because I remember whenever I'd been going through some things, even though I was, in an active church and I was in even church leadership, no one knew a thing and no one checked on me. And that's a hard thing. It really, really is.
This conversation reminds me of a video I saw on Facebook, and it was short and it just knocked the wind out of my sails.
Mhm.
And this two friends hadn't seen each other for a long time, and then all of a sudden they bump into each other. And they said, "Well, how you doing?" And of course they both said, "Fine, fine." Then one grabbed the other's arm and said, "No, not that easy. You ain't getting away. I can tell there's something wrong." And she goes, "Yeah." And they talked for just a short amount of time, but they decided that when they needed to talk as friends, one could call the other and say, 19 minutes. That's all it took for them to solve the other problem or feel connected or reconnected with the world. So that was their code, 19 minutes.
Mhm.
And in a way, with elderly parents, children far, far away, and things like that, if I don't hear anything from them, I know I'm okay, that things are going well, and they know that I'm always there if they say that to me. And having that code kind of makes it easier.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. Is that number, Todd? I mean, by your experience, is there a magic number of socialization or engagement, where you're at a moment that we need socially? Is there something like, we get to, like, say, like, like Sandra's talking about 19 minutes or something like that. Is there a magic number that you've ever seen?
Not that I've seen, and truthfully, I've not done research on any number. To me, it's just a connection.
Yeah.
Even if it's 19 seconds, if it's just that, you know, you're passing by an aisle in Walmart. We run into one another, and it's just, no, something's going on. What's wrong? It's like, and then even just my wife's in the hospital for 4 months, and my kids are driving me nuts, and I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm just taking a day at a time. That alone may have been 20 seconds. And then just like a supportive hug, and then we go our separate ways because we both got things to do.
Yeah.
That alone could even greatly help.
Yeah. No, I remember you had a chat like when Christina was ill for a little while there sometime back, and I know, you know, a lot of people were praying for you guys. You know, we
Yeah.
didn't get to talk to as much people, but I was one of those people praying.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I am proud to report that she is doing, compared to where she was this time in August, she is leaps and bounds better. She's not
Fantastic.
out of the fight. It's still a journey,
Yeah,
but she's
that's wonderful.
leaps and bounds better.
That's great. That's wonderful here. That's a blessing right there.
Yes.
Definitely. So Linda, you whenever you were see this, I'll tell a story on Linda here down here. When Linda joined Toastmasters, and it's been, a number of years now, she had been retired twice, both as a teacher and as a nurse, and she found that the socialization was key. And Linda, I mean, is there anything you could ask, with as far as what we were been talking about with socialization with Todd? Because I know that was very important to you whenever you became a public speaker yourself, and that hasn't been very many years now.
Yes, we need to be connected to people, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I find I am not connected, cannot connect to all people, but only some. And what I do is I have different ways I test people, whether or not they are safe people to talk about different things. For instance, 20 years ago, my 21-year-old son died in an automobile accident. And I didn't talk about it to most people. I would test people to see whether or not they were what I called safe people to talk to regarding that. And I've determined that by being involved in an organization called Bereaved Parents, where they met and they were safe people. Similarly, in different areas of our life, we can talk to different people about different aspects of our life, and we can't talk to other people about that particular aspect. We have to have, I find I need to have some kind of connection before I can share and interact in certain areas with certain people.
It's funny that you say that, because as I'm going through my normal day, I do spend a lot of time on social media because I do a lot of PR. And if I see something that catches my eye, I have this friend that'll really like that. And I know that photo will make them laugh or giggle. Or I have a picture of some terrible Midwest Jello salad that, we all know what we're talking about. And I know I can send it to all my Midwest friends and they get the joke. I mean, we have memories jointly that I think that sometimes a photograph or a poem or something that is something we've enjoyed together before. I have folders on, I shouldn't give my little trick away. I have folders on my hard drive for each of my friends. So if I feel all of a sudden like, oh, I wonder what she's up to now, I drop her. It's a nice icebreaker. Drop her a picture of, I saw yesterday, yes, spaghetti-o jello with meatballs. And I sent it to her and immediately we connected. And I think knowing each other and knowing what we have that is special. It feels like a nice way to just, hey, I haven't talked to you for 2.5 years, but here's a picture of a scarecrow, whatever it is. And I like, it actually makes me feel good when I drop a photo in that bucket. Little mind tricks, but
Well, that's a special type of engagement, really.
It is.
It's engagement in the form of it's would you say that it's a form of gift giving in a way?
oh, definitely. I mean, with you, I send you cute little pictures of bees and
Oh
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah, I wasn't then they were so sweet, definitely. And you've been very helpful in some of the brainstorming you've had. I really appreciate you doing that.
And I have so many friends that were in the military who are veterans who often suffer, both men and women, of PTSD.
Oh yeah.
And having a way to connect with them from what they've told me, I have an insight into what makes them smile
Hmm.
or, oh, don't go there. So it's just gentle photo giving.
Hmm. No, that's a wonderful thing. Well, I mean, if you think about it, uh, memes. Since I mean, but before Facebook, but before things like that, we had those little things that if we didn't have photograph, we had a drawing or we had a cartoon or something like that. I mean, how many times did we get some kind of goofy facts? And it's interesting. It's interesting. I didn't know about this because we still do a lot of faxing in the agency I work for. The only reason we still use fax is because it can't be hacked. Somehow it cannot be hacked. And so we're still using that for secure documentation, which is amazing to me. It's like going of all damn things, the facts, that image coming through. But then again, it's just like what you said, Sandra. That form of giving, that form of giving that out. Just sending silly little pictures or heartwarming pictures or things like that. If you don't have a word, then you have an image, and that does a wonderful thing. Do you think, Todd, that like again, going through different trauma, whether it's the military, whether it's relationships failing or different types of trauma, what is the importance of proper environments for men or women?
Of proper environments.
Like everyone say, like, don't be negative. I don't want to be around any toxic people, and things like that. But then again, there are people that will consider someone toxic or negative if they're trying to prevent a problem from occurring. We've seen that in project management. I see it all the time now in my job that it somehow is like going, maybe you don't want to do that because it's going to take more time. It's going to cost more money. It might get somebody hurt. Oh, no, 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 that's negative. We don't even want to hear that, which is just, unwise. It's the most unwise thing ever.
So to me, I think that it it takes away, not like not AWAY, but you have to weigh what's being said
Hmm.
and be willing to do that. We'd be willing to take the 5 seconds or 5 minutes
Right.
to talk through, because in there you have the judgment call of, is this person that knows and cares about, be it this trauma or be it this project,
Right.
or is this someone who really, I wouldn't ask them for advice on my car or, what food I should get for lunch. Why am I going to listen to them about this? So I think there's that careful way of, and then if they do weigh high and it's someone of value, then it's also a matter of, are you willing to check your pride?
Hmm. That's a big thing too.
Pride definitely is. We love to celebrate ourselves to people and never talk about the shadows, if you will, what's hidden in that closet behind.
Hmm. No,
One of my favorite sayings is, don't write anything you wouldn't want your mother to find.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
But when I do write to somebody, I try to think of them and how they're going to read it. And if I have anything negative to say, why am I saying it? Because in today's climate, we don't need extra stuff.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Oh, okay, Todd, I got a question from Derek. He's one of our viewers on the Facebook side.
All right.
He said the last he could hear from you, he had some internet trouble. That silence is a threat to fathers. What effective ways can a man share his needs with his partner and others?
So it depends to me, it depends on the environment, like you were saying.
Hmm.
So I'll take something from my own life. When I am struggling with my anxiety and I am at a breaking point, and that sort of tense moment,
Right.
that's not a time to have a conversation.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Um, what I would say is that when the husband, and we're talking husband and wife here, when you are even in bed or at the dinner table afterwards, where it's just you and her, the kids are asleep,
Hmm.
and even if it's 1 a.m. or 9 a.m. on a good night, taking that time and saying, hey, I have something I need to talk to you about. And even if something like, I'm wrestling with something, can I share this with you?
Hmm.
And talk about it openly. But the catch with that is your relationship with your spouse. Because while I have a great relationship with my wife, so I could talk to her openly about that. Not everyone has that. So that's kind of where it depends. But I would say that no matter what, if it's something you need to talk about, just be open and honest and address the elephant in the room, if you will.
Hmm.
But do it one on one,
Yeah.
husband and wife. And I would caution about getting others' opinions if it's a super personal matter, because like if I was to ask a friend of mine at work, what is their background? Do they have a string of adultery? And are they an alcoholic? Or, all these things? Or are they someone reputable? So I would caution, I'm not saying don't get advice from people, just be cautious and weigh and balance who you listen to.
Hmm.
Because if they're an adulteress, let's say, I'm just picking on adulterers, could be a thief, could be a druggie, whatever vice you want to demonize, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, or if they're single, they've been single their whole lives. Nothing against single people, but what does a single person who's never been married know about marriage?
Hmm.
So proceed with caution, but definitely proceed.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. Sandra, what did you have there?
Well, This brought up a silly memory from when I was, I believe in high school, between 18 and 20 years old, right afterwards. And they had a class that we all had to take at this Southern Baptist school and church for dating and marriage preparation. And I was gonna like, I don't know about this, but one of the best things they taught me is that a relationship is like a checkbook. Your ledger. He says you put so much in, you put it in the plus column, you do a boo-boo, you take it out and make sure your balance is big enough for whatever's going to hit you. And that has stuck with me all these years. And, my husband and I, we're two different people. Well, obviously, somewhere we're not going to mesh. We usually are able to talk it out, and we actually do a quasi a money trade, saying, "Well, how much is this worth to you if I do, decide to turn off the lights at night and go to sleep half hour earlier and not read my book all night long?" And so we kind of not negotiate, but we realize that when we make an ask, we're making a withdrawal, and we got to put it back some other way.
No.
I like that. I see a lot
Yeah.
of truth in that. And that also reminds me of kind of a flip side, and that's something that any of us can do, and that is to, I guess you could say, when someone does something wrong, do the best to forgive and don't keep a list of, oh, you want to do that, but you did, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K wrong, and just throwing it in their face. Or if I was to share something sensitive to my wife, and then a week later she's like, oh, like this? And repeats that as a weapon, using my own vulnerability as a weapon against me. That does one thing. That means, and I've had this happen even recently. I was sharing something with someone who I love dearly, and I know they love me, and it was turned against me. Needless to say, well, actually, not needless to say, but just point blank, my wall is up. That shield we were talking about earlier, it's firmly planted. It's not coming down.
Right.
So that's the other, I guess you could say just another perspective.
No, of course. Well, and and I don't know who would be more apt to throw the shield up, a man or a woman, but I guess it all comes down to life experience.
Right.
No,
I'd say individual experience.
yeah. There are people out there that are um they're very open. They're like you say, like, I'm an open book or something like that. But then there's the realist, there's the optimist, there's a pessimist, wherever you might be. There's the old grouch, that you're not going to get anything out of, but periodically you get a little grain of wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end. Uh, Todd, is there any final comments as we finish this session? Anything you want to give to us, but before we do the closing statements?
I would say just kind of honestly comes down to the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated, and to check in on your brothers and your sisters. Because every one of us is going through a battle
Right.
that we may never share with anyone. And checking in, that can help.
Thank you. Well, now Todd can be reached, through his website, liftingupdads.com. And let's give him a lasting round of applause as we finish all the things up. Thank you very much, Todd. Thank you for being our guest here. And then, anytime, you want to come back, if you want to take on a different topic in the new year, if you got something, say, hey, Tim, I want to bring that up and I want to utilize that, for the audience there, then you have that there. So, feel free. This is one of the things with this platform is that I want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. And you got a capability of, whether it's a long speech or it's a presentations or it's a sermon or a thesis, whatever it might be, that's there for you. So please, consider open invitation to come back, especially if there's some things like, like what Sandra's talking about, with PTSD and things like that. Um, our next session is going to be in December, after Thanksgiving. I believe Yolanda Wood will be speaking about one of her expert areas, which is the Tuskegee Airmen. But it might be that might actually not be. We've got to work out some details on that, but that will be, I believe, just to give the dates there, that will be on December the 3rd, I believe. And then Derek Zaborin, who actually was on Facebook with us, he's going to be speaking at the end of the month as well, right before Christmas. So, audience, thank you so much for being with us. And so ends session 6 of the engagement room. Thank you very much, Todd. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.